Hello and welcome to another episode of the Empowering Leaders podcast. At Aleda, we are passionate about inspiring connections and creating a world of collaboration. Our signature program, Aleda Connect, curates groups of 5 to 6 leaders from diverse backgrounds in sport, industry, social venture, and the arts who come together to learn, to connect, and to collaborate.
It's been amazing. Here you are on this Zoom call, feeling within the first session like you intimately know these people and care for them. And then all of a sudden realizing that even though you're in totally different industries, we're all going through the same thing, or we've been through it and we can help each other, or there's just this hurdle that you can't see past. And then you share it with the group and there's 5 answers in 40 minutes and you think, I have not slept for 2 weeks thinking about that. Like, how is this possible?
So you're listening to stories and the breadcrumbs of what makes success, and I constantly get something out of these Zoom calls and catch-ups because we're all living the same stuff, aren't we?
Extraordinary people with extraordinary experience. What happens there is magical.
The Empowering Leaders podcast is proudly brought to you by Victoria University, where cutting-edge sports and exercise science facilities like heat chambers, performance labs, and altitude environments mean VU is ranked 7th in the world for sports science. VU, uniquely you. As always, a big thank you to Jason Nicholas and his team at Temper Bedding, a mattress like no other. If you enjoy listening to the Empowering Leaders podcast, be sure to subscribe, and please, if you have a moment, we would love you to leave a review so we can reach more listeners and empower more leaders. Dr Tim McGrath is the Senior Director of Player Health and Performance for the Washington Commanders in the NFL, where he oversees strength and conditioning, sports medicine, nutrition, and player wellness. Tim's career spans more than 2 decades across the AFL, the NRL, and global high-performance sport, including collaborative work with teams in the NBA and international rugby. He has built a reputation as a leader who blends evidence-based science with deep care for the people behind the performance. He's also the founder of Pitch Ready, a return-to-sport platform that has reshaped how athletes around the world approach injury, recovery, and readiness. Tim holds a doctorate in clinical physiotherapy from the University of Canberra and has led elite teams in some of the most demanding environments in global sport. His story is one of innovation, trust, and the pursuit of sustainable high performance, lessons that apply far beyond the field. Tim, it's great to spend some time with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Tim, we've just seen your background of elite performance across several codes around the world. What have you learned about creating a culture when people consistently perform at their best?
I think it's like bouncing between different sports. I think it's more about trying to work out what's the same and then what's different between sports, which is no different to like even within the same sport if you get like a different head coach come in, because everyone does things a little bit differently. So I think it's about trying to find the things that you know work and then not just necessarily trying to shoehorn it into a particular sport or a program. It's really about finding what's similar and what's different, and then work within those parameters to try and sort of come up with a program that hopefully is going to work.
And have you seen those patterns when you move from, different codes and they've got a different language and the sports are different, but are there clear patterns in your world of trying to get athletes to be their best?
I think it's like there are definitely commonalities, like specific injuries are the same. We're all humans at the end of the day. So I think if I tried to take up, horse racing or something, that might be a little bit challenging. But, like a calf injury is a calf injury, depending on the whatever the sport you're sort of talking about. And the demands of the sport are going to be a little bit different. So how you sort of prepare them for that is going to be a little bit different. But, there's definitely lots of similarities at the end of the day.
Tim, you founded Pitch Ready to help athletes get back to play smarter and healthier and safer. What's the biggest leadership lesson you've learned from taking an idea like that and turning it now into a great success where teams around the world use the platform you created?
If you asked me, like undergraduate, if I was going to be the kind of person to do a PhD, I would have said like hell no. So I kind of fell into it, where which in the end made it a rewarding thing to do, was because it was like you just had this nagging question that you wanted to answer, and you do a PhD thinking that you're just going to have all the answers, but all you realize is it just tells you like everything that we don't know about a specific topic. So So the whole pitch ready thing was, like doing a PhD, and then the idea just kind of grew from there. So, in the end, you start doing like 3D biomechanical analysis of, athletes running and changing direction and all that kind of thing. And so you get like massive data input, and then you realize, okay, like you have to start working out like the whole computer science sort of aspect. And I got so frustrated of like sitting in meetings with people, trying to learn how to computer code and do it, extrapolating data really quickly. So I was like, oh, stuff it. I may as well just have a go at it myself. So, then you start going down the whole, computer science sort of aspect. And I hated maths like when I was in high school, but if you're trying to learn things when there's a bit of a purpose behind it, it's a little bit more sort of enjoyable. So it's really been about trying to add rigor to the things that your eyes, like when you're working in sport, the art aspect of it, like what you're looking for is more about just trying to have some objectivity that kind of helps you make decisions around that. But like that, it's really that part, which is, it's not just the biomechanics and the computer science kind of aspect. It's not just me as like the clinician, sort of working in sport. It's really sort of trying to blend the two together.
I love, Tim, how you mention art in your world and clearly science and data that you're incredibly familiar with. But is there still room for that? I know some people just intuitively, you lay down on a practitioner's physio bed, and some people just seem to know what's going on, even if it was completely different from what you, the patient, thought was going on. Is the art still real?
Yeah, like you cannot, like it will never replace that, because different people respond to different things, and you even have like different personality types. So like some people, you'll give them heaps of information because, they need to know all the detail, as where other people, their worry is, so like if you give them too much, it's just going to stress them out. So like even like the same piece of information, you need to know how to deliver that in a way that's going to probably have the most, useful impact, because you can stuff that up. Just the information is one thing, but you can have a really negative result just on how that information is kind of communicated.
Yeah, fascinating. For me, I look at you as someone who's been on the inside of these globally respected sporting organisations, the NBA and the NRL and the AFL, and now you're sitting inside the Commanders organisation in the NFL. What do you see the common threads are with great leaders in those organisations?
I think it's the great leaders, like one of the biggest ones I think is they don't go on the roller coaster. Like their highs and their lows are really quite consistent. So, their best and their worst is really quite close together. I think the secondary part to that is like emotional intelligence. Like they can read a room. They can tell when players are stressed. They can tell when players are angry. They can, they're just good at kind of communicating and reading the room. And then I've had coaches who are really good at that, and the program hasn't been good because they just don't necessarily have like a really clear game plan, like how they're going to prepare, like, the technical aspects as well. So like it's really those kind of three pillars for me. And the same thing sort of happens like outside of football, like in business as well, is we can talk about culture, and obviously that's like important, but like people need to have like they need to have the aspirational things. They need to have the game plan. They need to have, the business strategy and like the technical aspects and how they're going to actually execute, the day to day, because you can't live without that at the end of the day as well. So I think every organization that I've been in, the best ones are the one that kind of have all those three things pretty well squared away.
Yeah, it's a great way you describe that, and the crossover between the sports world that you live in and the business world makes perfect sense. It's been a great privilege, Tim, to have you in our Aleda community. You've collaborated with some really interesting people. Adam Darcy from Quantium and the chairman of Canterbury Bulldogs, who's a leader in the AI world. Dixie Marshall from Market Force and the WA Footy Commission. Dixie's a legend. Tommy Bryce from the Milwaukee Bucks. Con Caravaris from the Western Bulldogs in the AFL. Mike King, who's scaling this global business called Core Plus and doing incredible things. Can you tell us about collaborating in that Aleda Connect group?
It's been good. Like I've done sort of leadership things before, but this is the first one where it's really like peer to peer, like rather than having like someone who's just facilitating and they're sort of trying to pass on wisdom. It's the first one that I've done where it's other people who are at the coalface doing it with you. So I feel like the strength of it is really just the informal parts. And, you can have I've had days where it's been, stressful or, like that sort of stuff. And you feel even just I've had one particular day that I can remember where like I was having an absolute horrible day, like lots of things were going wrong and all this kind of stuff. And had that, like we had one of our catch ups, and like by the end of it, I felt like $1 million just purely because, like, I don't know, I can't even tell you why in the end, but it just gave you this sense, like, I don't know, everyone's going through the same thing. Like people just offer like little tidbits, just in how to sort of try and navigate out of it. So like it was really invigorating. So I think that's, obviously some people there, in our group that are heavy hitters in their own right. So like it's just good just having that, that ability to just bounce ideas off people. Invariably with, Adam, everyone's just interested in AI all the time. So it just quickly just pivots to like where the world is going with AI all the time. And he's doing some really cool stuff. Dixie's, she's a bag of energy. So and Con's this, Michael are just these sort of quiet people who just sort of sit in the background. But then when they talk, like they don't talk a lot, but when they do, like there's genuine sort of wisdom there as well. So like, yeah, it's a good group.
And Tim, that idea of taking some time out of a really busy schedule to zoom out and maybe, as you said, reflect on the way things are going. It's, once a month. Is that sort of where you see that value of actually sitting up and being able to step out of your environment for a while? Is that some of the benefit that you've seen?
Definitely. Like I said, it's not something that's like, oh yeah, here we go. Like, like if, say you had to go to a course or something like that, where it's more like around the technical aspects of it, be sitting there going like, oh, like I'm tired. I don't really have the ability to kind of absorb new information. But this never feels like that. It always feels like invigorating when you do it. So even if you're, like I said, tired and stressed out, you always feel better for sort of doing it because you're talking to peers who are, going through their own sort of sets of challenges. So it's an invigorating thing for sure.
Tim, in the world that you've been incredibly successful in, you're uniting medical teams with performance teams and coaching staff and athletes under the one vision that you're trying to achieve. What do you think is the key to aligning people with different priorities behind that common purpose?
I think it's like one of the key things is, people talk about like psychological safety, but it's not really in that regard. It's more like people being happy to speak up and challenge things. And I try not to make it about me. I try to just be the one who sort of like, tries to, obviously has a plan in the background, but, like I try to just almost be in the background as much as humanly possible. And, so it's really around getting, common vision, getting people happy to have robust conversations with each other, trusting each other. Like I think they're the pillars that you sort of try and push. And like when I came here, that was, there was separate departments and people had their areas of responsibility. So when I came in, we didn't change over. Like we added some staff because they just needed some more help in sort of different areas. But the people who are here now are the ones that were here sort of previously. So it was really around trying to kind of unite the group rather than just having people just looking after their little area.
And you've spent a lifetime helping elite athletes push their limits. What are the parallels, Tim, for you, watching people chasing success in sport with maybe people trying to do the same in their business life or their creative life or any other pursuit?
I think it's like passion is the number one thing. Like you look at, guys that have played, 18 years, within their sport, or people that are, like super successful in business is, like if you take the athletes who are successful, for example, is you don't really have to tell them to do anything. Sometimes it's more the opposite where you're telling them to just like calm down. Like they're probably like pushing themselves kind of too hard sometimes, but you're never having to like push them. They're sort of intrinsically looking for things like all the time. So they have obviously, like if we're talking athletes, they obviously have the athletic ability and all of that sort of stuff, but they're sort of students of the game as well. Like they take a keen interest in it, and and they're just always wanting to be better all the time, but it's intrinsically motivated rather than like someone telling them you should go and watch more video, or you should go and do more weight sessions, or you should do more flexibility work, or whatever you have, is that really they're sort of motivating that themselves. And I think like any area, like if you start talking about business, I've seen nothing to convince me that it's not the same personality trait across there as well. They're all, happy to stay up late or work on weekends, or, they do it probably because they enjoy it at the end of the day and they get fulfillment out of it, rather than it being something that, they're doing because they have to do, or because someone's sort of trying to, push them to do it.
It's a great description again of the way you've summed it up. I suppose at the end point, there's a possibility of burnout, and it's been a real thing, hasn't it, where you can't really be successful if you're getting that out of whack. What have you seen from athletes that maybe do push themselves, or for leaders in terms of trying to avoid burnout?
I think like you definitely have to learn that, and it's really like probably standing at the coalface. It's a lesson you sort of have to learn. Like I definitely had to learn it myself, and I tried lots of different ways over the years. Like some people can finish at 5 p.m. and switch off and do all that kind of stuff. Is where that never really worked for me. Like the system that I sort of worked on is okay. Like I go for chunks of time, knowing that I'm gonna spin the flywheel as fast as I can, but then knowing that can't go on forever. So, it's a bit harder in the football world because you're sort of locked into a schedule, but as much as I can, I'll sort of go hard for blocks and then, literally try and switch off for blocks and find stuff that you like that's outside of work. Like, I'm madly into fishing and all that kind of stuff. So just having things that are just totally unrelated to work as a way of like trying to have a hard reset. So, I guess I can speak more to what's worked for me probably than what's worked for other people. But yeah, everyone has their limit and everyone's different. And I'm not sure that there's a right or wrong way to do it. I think it's more just being cognizant of that and then working out a system that works for you.
We all are born different. As we grow, the experiences we have develop into outlooks uniquely our own, charting our life's course. No one sees an idea, opinion, or opportunity like you. And no one sees you like VU. Victoria University. Uniquely you.
At Aleda, our signature program, Aleda Connect, is something we're really passionate and proud of. We bring together groups of 5 to 6 people around the globe from diverse backgrounds, sport, industry, social venture and the arts, who come together to learn, to connect and to collaborate.
The thing that I've loved about it is not just the meetings that we have with our group, it's the thinking that you do for days and days afterwards. Someone says something and it sparks a thought, and I found that I would go back and look at things that I was doing in a different light. Within my sport and within women's sport, I'm just someone who I try to lead by keeping people talking about the issues. There's times when I think the person I'm trying to convince is not listening to me. It actually got me thinking about, okay, this is how I need to address my communication with them. So it was so valuable, and the little group that we've got is great, and I'm really looking forward to sort of continuing to connect with them into the future because we're all so very different. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it.
Tim, many leaders struggle to let go of control. How have you learned to delegate and empower others in your world?
I think like earlier in my career, I would have struggled with that more, as we're now like it's more about having a system and then having checkpoints to know that like things are going the way that you want to. And as long as I think you have those things, then it's a lot easier. So, a lot of the, again, like here, like in the NFL, I came through in sport being the person who was doing it all, like, the treatment aspects, the rehab parts of it, the programming, like all that sort of stuff. And so as we're here, I'm very managerial now. So you got lots, there's in training camp, there's 90 athletes kind of thing. So you can't be everywhere all the time. So it's really about having the checkpoints to have comfort that things are going the way that you want to. And it can just be something as simple as, if an athlete's doing a running session or a conditioning session or something, we'll just get video footage of it and I can watch that later on if I need to. So I don't have to be like physically there all the time. Or if someone's reporting, an issue, you have to work out, is this something where, yeah, it's just a bit of soreness and, nothing's going to happen, versus like, yeah, this could burn us if we're not careful. So it's really about having like checks and balances that give you comfort to know when it's in control and when it's not. But ultimately, you have to be able to trust the people around you to do things, because you can't do everything yourself.
Tim, you look back at your journey from a clinician to now a global leader in the highest echelon of sport. What kind of leader do you hope people would say you were and are today?
I like to not take things too seriously. So I do like to have a laugh, and I hope that shines through. I hope that people would say that when the heat comes on, that like I try very hard to take as much of the heat as I can, not be one of those people where heat comes at me and then I transmit it down, use other people as my sort of stress release kind of thing. So I try to absorb that and like protect people underneath me as much as humanly possible. I like to think that people would think that they can challenge me, like, and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or can we, and obviously there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, as there always is, but you'd like to think that, people would never say that, I couldn't approach him. I couldn't ask him a question. I couldn't do anything like that. And then, like I said, like we talked about with some of the, different coaches I work with, is the bit that I try to stand on is, like the technical expertise as well. So like, being able to help people navigate problems, technical sort of aspects of it, so that you're actually like a resource for them. So you give them answers that they may not have been able to come with themselves. So it's again, it comes back to that sort of balance for me of obviously the technical parts, and obviously like, trying to be a person that protects people and listens to people. Like that would be how you'd hopefully think that people think of you of.
I love how you started with humour, Tim, and the first thing you thought of is I want it to be fun. I don't want to take it too seriously. And professional sports often got that connotation of win or die, and it's pressure filled. And so how seems a lost art to me, having that fun and that humour at work. How does that show up for you? How are you able to get that into your?
It's
your
harder
day?
in America, because half the time I think people couldn't even understand me. Like, some of the slang sayings. You'd be in a meeting and head coach of the gym is like, "What did you just say?" Like, I don't even understand it. So like, it's become a bit of a joke now. Like, the legal counsel, every time I sign off an email, he'll say "Hi, Cobber" or something like that. So it's become like a bit of a joke. But like, it's just ways of just making things just a little bit less serious. So that the times that you are like, there are times where you have to be serious, but you don't need to be serious like all the time, because you're around each other too many hours of the week to be not having fun as well.
Tim, we see these patterns of what great leaders look like in different settings, whether it be sport or the creative arts or in the business world. And starting with this thought that hard to lead anyone else unless you know how to lead yourself. And you mentioned you're a mad fisherman that takes you out. What are the things that you do to feel your best so that you can lead others?
I have to get exercise through the week. Like, I have to get my bicep curls and bench press and all that sort of stuff. So I've been doing the same weights program since I used to play footy, 20 something years ago. I haven't really varied it too much, but so as long as I get that, like as long as I get my runs in, as long as I get the things that I enjoy, like recreationally, like like fishing, doing things with the kids, like all of that sort of stuff. So I have my like non-negotiables where as long as you get those things in the week, then okay, I can work long hours and I can deal with lots of stress, and I'm generally sort of going to be okay. So it's more about just learning where your non-negotiables, where your break points are, like all of that kind of thing. And it's you're always learning that over time. But I'd say like probably maybe in the last 5 to 10 years, like I've probably felt like I've known myself better than probably previously to that.
I want to dive in. It's just more of a personal one, because I laugh when you said I've been doing the same weights program for forever, and I've done a very average workout today. My wife was going, I've seen you do that for 20 years. Nothing's changed. And I'm interested because it's like, I know I can switch off. I can do it. I feel good afterwards. For someone who's got, a PhD in understanding this world, is it better off doing something all the time, or should we be changing it up more?
It depends on what you want to achieve at the end of the day. Like if I was literally trying to go to the Olympics or something, I could definitely write myself a program that, could try and deal in that vein. The problem is I'm built like a sausage dog, so like I can't run fast enough no matter how good my program is. So the key thing is, like, as I get older, like I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to, and I work with like strength coaches, and they all get to that sort of mid 40s, and they've got 2 labral repairs in their shoulder, and hip replacements and all that kind of stuff, is because I don't think they necessarily know how to get the balance right between what exercise should be and what keeps them healthier as they kind of get older. So, like, do I lift as heavy now as I did, 20 years ago? No, I probably don't lift a hell of a lot less, but I know my threshold now where same with my runs. I don't want to do a marathon because 1, I don't have the time, and 2, something would break trying to do it. So I feel like I've just got this, a good understanding of like where the balance is between here I'm redlining, I can do that for a little while, but I'm going to break, and like here I'm going to get fat and unfit and unhappy, and like I just try and just oscillate in that, as much as possible.
I've never heard anyone describe themselves as being built like a sausage dog before, Tim. I
sit next to like some of these dudes are pretty big here, and like if I sit next to them at the dining table, I'm at the same height, and then they stand up and they're like up here, and I'm sort of down there. So I've got a pretty long torso, but unfortunately, I don't think my legs are very big.
I've got to say this because watched an Australian story last night of this sausage dog on Kangaroo Island that went missing for 560 days. They thought it would last a day, that an eagle would grab it, and this sausage dog survived, in the it's a pretty unique place, Kangaroo Island, so they're a bit more resilient, the sausage dog. It's it went viral around the world, this dog that someone took over there on holiday.
Maybe that's my spirit animal. It's like, I've sort of managed to do things in sport is because I'm, deep down I'm a sausage dog.
I think we found something here, Tim, in this conversation for sure. But look up Valerie, the sausage dog, Kangaroo Island, for your own entertainment. You'll enjoy that. What's the one piece of leadership advice you pass on the most?
I think it's just be your authentic self, I think is the main thing, which is where like when I came over here, I didn't try and come in hot and heavy. Obviously you had a clear plan, like we have to have some structure, we have to have meetings, we have to have systems, we have to have all that sort of stuff, but like didn't come in saying, we have to do this and, try and be, too dictatorial, like from the start. And so I think it's more like my one bit of advice is just be who you are and don't try and be something that you think that you're supposed to be. And, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and the impression some people have is that you need to be really, really authoritative, and you have to be a big personality, and you have to be, like the central linchpin in it all. But the older I've gotten, the more I've realized you kind of don't. Like it's more about empowering other people is probably much more sustainable than having this fast pace and, getting everyone rowing the boat at 1,000 miles an hour, because it might get some initial success, but then like you said, people burn out, people hate what they're doing, people either leave, move on, go and do sort of something else. So I think it's more like I said, coming back to people enjoying what they do, people having ownership around what they do, having a clear plan. Like I think that's way more sustainable, because it's the same with, I always come back to like the way I try and lead is I always sort of look at go, well, when I was younger, what did I hate? And I try not to do that to other people is really how I try and do it.
It's a good place to start, isn't it? Have a list of things that frustrated you when you're being led by others. You would have come in with a clear vision. You've got a great history of understanding what works. How do you successfully deliver that? You walk into an organisation like the Washington Commanders in the NFL. How do you get people to come on board with the vision that you've got?
I think it was really like when I came here, it was really like the team had just changed ownership. Like no one had contracts, like any of that sort of stuff. So it was really like about just trying to stabilize the ship to start off with. Like, everything's going to be okay. Like, we're going to get stuff sorted. Let's just start with a few things. Let's just start with meetings. Let's start with like some systems around stuff. So it was really just around like, again, that almost like stabilizing the ship, for want of a better, was really what I tried to do. And then just use that to sort of build it. Because if people trust you, people think that you're going to have their back, then it's far easier to get them rowing the boat in a direction that you want them to, than if you just come straight in on the technical parts. We got to do this, and this sucked, and we got to be better at this, and like all that sort of stuff. That doesn't make people want to. They're sitting there worrying, going like, okay, like, do I have a job in the next little while, and all that kind of thing. So, and again, that comes back to how I was. Is you try not to worry about this sort of stuff, but if you don't know like what your contract status is, for example, that supersedes everything. You're not going to think more than 10 minutes in front of what you're doing, because you might not be there in a short space of time. So it's really just like trying to predict what people are going to be stressed about, and then try and sort that out first, and then after that becomes the nitty gritty of how you try and move things forward.
And Tim, we see curiosity is a common trait of people who have sustained success. For you, can you share your curiosity? And is there a rabbit hole where curiosity has taken you down recently?
I think I always say like I'm a builder, not a gardener. So like it's a blessing and a curse, which is like I always feel like I have to be doing new stuff all the time. Otherwise, I kind of get bored. So for me, it's really around like coming over into America. It's obviously like the cultural parts were different. Getting the nuances of the NFL was different. So like that's probably kept me busy for the last sort of few years. And then in the background is, like all the technical parts, like, pitch ready aspect, like trying to make that the sports tech sort of aspect of it. Like that's something that's just going to keep evolving, all the time.
Tim, we love this idea that the cost of leadership is time. How do you balance your workloads and the demands of the success you want with also at the same time having balance in your life and family life?
It's hard, and I don't pretend that I've got like all the answers with that one. Like I think that's the thing that makes people good at what they do, is because they are like super passionate, and it's hard. Like they're just always thinking about the next thing that they can be doing and the next problem they need to solve. And you get a bit of a fix out every time you fix something or come up with something new. Or so we're all probably slightly addicted to that. Like at the end of the day, it is definitely, I'd say that's probably one of my weaker points is that ability to switch on and switch off, because I can't like, do a day's work, switch off for a while. But it's definitely like something that I, try to work on is, trying to be present when you're home. Because the one thing, my kids are a little bit older now, like that my oldest is 16. So like, it sort of dawned on me a little while ago that, then they're not going to be at home full time for that much longer. So what I don't want to do is do all these things that I thought was really cool, like career wise, and then, have kids that hate you, or, kids that you have no connection with, and, like feel like that I missed out sort of on that front. So it's definitely like a work in progress for me.
So leaders are really conscious of their communication strategy. Have you had a mantra around the way you communicate?
It's a good question. I think like communication style is for me, it's like more informal. And one of the really good things with the Aleda program, because coming over here, just the way things are communicated are different in America. And like when the boss talks, it's taken as like an order, as where like Aussies, the way they tend to talk is like we're talking through a problem, and like I'll tell you what I think we should do, but like I'm not locked in. So there was a real mismatch with that, where they'd say like, I'd be sort of talking out loud about a solution for a problem, and then people would just rush off and start doing it, and then it wouldn't work, for example. And they're like, "Well, you told us we need to do that." I was like, "No, I wasn't saying that. It was like this is what this is the way I think that maybe we could do it, but like I'm not locked in on it." So the way that I had to sort of like develop it was almost like this one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional sort of thinking, which is like, one-dimensional is like, yeah, that's okay. I want you to eat beef today for lunch. Like it's a real black and white sort of like instruction. Two-dimensional is where you can have like chicken or beef. Like, it's one or the other. I don't really care which of those two it is, but it needs to be chicken or beef. And then 3-dimensional is like, we need to have lunch today. I don't really know what we're going to have. Like, maybe we have salmon, but like, I'm not sort of locked in on that. So like, whenever we have a problem, I'll sort of say, okay, so we've got this problem, 1 dimension, 2, and I'll say like 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension, just as a way of trying to signal to the staff, okay, this, he's either saying he wants this, or he's trying to talk through like a solution with us. So that's been like a really good sort of thing that I learned from the program, because prior to that was actually a bit of a barrier, like trying to get through, trying to get the message through, like getting people to understand what you were trying to say.
It's a fascinating way to do it, isn't it? To open up in dimensions. It's I thank you for sharing that. Tim, who's been the greatest leader in your life?
I'd have to say my dad, to be honest. Purely like he's a dentist by trade, so he ran health businesses. He's helped me a lot from like, even when I sort of started, obviously when I first graduated, like, there's just lots of commonalities between, like, if you work in a health profession, there's just so many sort of common parts to it. And then, he ran his own practice for whatever, 35 years or something like that. So he understood small business, ran things the way that I would want to run them, which is, quality first. So a lot of those sort of concepts, I literally just copycatted like straight from him. And even now, like, driving home, the time frame tends to work pretty well, where, after a day's work, like here at Washington, just ring him and you just talk about, different things like that. And he's always been a very good sounding board for me.
Yeah, what a gift in life, isn't it, to have someone that close to you that has given you all of that. It's I love asking that question for that reason, and it's not an uncommon answer to have a parent that's had that influence on you. You've got to collaborate in so many ways. We're a bit obsessed with collaboration in Aleda. Has there been anyone that you thought across any of your passions, might be your love of fishing or your high performance world, is there someone you thought, God, that's a person I'd love to connect and collaborate with more than anyone else?
Oh, if I could come up with someone that I could somehow turn what I do into something that requires me to be surfing in the Maldives or like fishing on the Coral Sea or something like that, that would be pretty good. No, I think like there is just so many people that you get lots of different things from. Like, it's really hard to sort of pick one person. My job now especially is I bounce across like so many different sort of like technical areas that that's probably more the thing is, rather than sort of pigeonholing yourself into a particular style or strategy, is you talk to lots of people and then, you end up probably stealing lots of, different ideas, across all those different areries.
Hey, Tim, it's been great to spend some time with you. We're really privileged to have you part of the Aleda community, and thank you for opening up and sharing some of your great success story. It's many chapters to play out, but no surprise that you're having the life that you're living, and congratulations. I really appreciate it.
It's awesome. The program you guys is the thing you guys run is awesome. Like, I've got lots out of it. So, anyone who's thinking of doing it, like, I couldn't recommend it highly enough.